have them. You'll see information on how to reach us, and we will be happy to help you out at this time of year. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Mandy.
Thank you so much. All right, so just some general information about our district application programs. We also use the acronym DAP to describe the district application programs, but that just means or stands for our 87 magnet and fundamental programs. All of these programs require an application. The selection is a randomized process, and you have to accept an offer in order to attend the program. Our DAP programs have two models, either whole school, which means everyone in the school has applied and accepted an offer to attend there, or the second model is a program within the school, which means that there is a zone side of the school in which students attend just based on their residential address, and some of the students there have applied to attend just the program within the school through the district application program process. County-wide programs and specific application or transportation areas exist, so that is dependent or influences which programs you're able to apply for, and we'll go over what those are in just a moment. Our magnet programs provide arterial transportation within the application area or the designated transportation area, so it's a little bit different than just a neighborhood bus that comes, closer to your house. Our arterial transportation stops are located on those larger roads, so you may need to, it may be out of walking distance. You may need to drive your student to the stop or something like that, but arterial just means that there are fewer stops on busier roads to get students to those magnet and the magnet programs. We'll talk for a few minutes about some application areas so you know what to look for as you are narrowing down your options for district application programs that you'd like to apply for. Some of our programs are county-wide, which means it doesn't matter where you live within the county, you would be able to apply to that program. So any address in Pinellas County can apply. Other programs have application areas that are based upon your address. These include North County, Mid-County, South County, south of Gulf to Bay, south of Ulmerton, and some programs have unique areas. The application areas are based upon the zone middle or high school for your residential address. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you a graphic that will make this a little bit easier to understand. Elementary and middle school programs are based upon your zone middle school, and high school programs are based upon your zoned high school. So on the back of the DAP guide that can be found at pcsb.org/DAP, or your student may have brought one home from school. On the back there is a map that illustrates what those application areas look like. So if you look over on the left, for example, if your student is an elementary or middle school student and they're zoned for Dunedin Highland Middle School, you would be considered a North County application area resident. So any program designated as a North County application area program you could apply for, or you could apply for county-wide programs. There are some more detailed informational sections down there at the bottom that talks about those unique application areas. They are specific to our Centers for Wellness and Medical Professions, for Kings Highway and Gulf Beaches, and some others in there too that you can see described there. If we look inside the DAP guide, so again, that can be found at pcsb.org/DAP. Below each description of the program indicates what the application area is. So if you're looking in the high school program section under the Academy of Finance at Northeast High School, you can see that that's a county-wide application area. Those red arrows are indicating where the application area is listed underneath each program description. Pages 24 and 25 in the DAP guide list which programs have application areas and indicates what they are.
I'm going to jump in real quick because if you're not sure of what your zone school would be, or your zoned high or middle school, if you're in elementary, we do have a thing on our website. If you go to www www.pcsb.org/zone. You can enter your address there, and it's going to tell you what your zoned middle and high school are to help you better understand what application areas you are in.
Next, we're going to review entrance criteria and ineligibility. Most district application programs do not have entrance criteria, but a few do. Entrance criteria exists for our Centers for Gifted Studies, Centers for Literacy Innovation. Gibbs PCCA has an audition and an interview process, and our high school Cambridge ACE and IB programs also have entrance criteria. For the Centers for Gifted Studies, students would need a qualifying IQ score and a copy of the psychological report or an active educational plan. If you're applying from a non-Pinellas County school, you will need to bring or send documentation to the school's gifted coordinator before January 24th, 2025. When you complete your application, it gives you the coordinator's contact information on the confirmation screen so that you have that person's name and their phone number and email address to ask any questions or send documentation over there to them.
And I'm going to jump in real quick here on this one again. If you're currently in the process of getting identified or going through the gifted screening process, go ahead and still apply. You may be temporarily marked as ineligible, but once that piece is done and you get your eligibility, they'll be able to put you back on the wait list. So just because you're in the process doesn't eliminate you from applying at this time.
The Centers for Literacy Innovation are located at either Elisa Nelson for North County or Midtown Academy for South County. The schools handle scheduling the CLI screenings, and to be eligible, the students must pass that screening. So the school, you could go ahead and apply, the school will contact you, and then they will schedule that screening for your student. For our high school Cambridge ACE and IB programs, there are multiple eligibility requirements that are detailed there on the screen. Prerequisite courses include Algebra 1 honors or an Algebra 1 credit through the Credit Acceleration Program. Final academic grades for 6th and 7th grade should be A's and B's in those core classes and including world language. 8th grade semester academic grades of A's or B's. And then there are the required test scores there. Again, on the confirmation screen, when you go to apply for either Cambridge ACE and IB programs, will give you that coordinator's information for any clarification, or if you have a question about one of those required pieces, you can go ahead there and ask them. Again, similar to like Ellen mentioned with the gifted, if you're unsure or if your student is going an alternative route for one of these pieces of eligibility requirements, go ahead and apply, and then you can contact or communicate with that coordinator, and they can help you out with that.
And with this piece too, if you are currently attending one of our schools or our charter schools, there's no need for you to bring the eligibility criteria to the gifted coordinator the IB or ACE coordinator. They'll be able to access it. It's only those students who are coming from private schools or are new to the county that would need to provide the eligibility criteria. Otherwise, we'll be able to fully access it.
If a student applying to one of the programs with entrance criteria can be determined ineligible, that just means that they don't meet the criteria. Or if you log in and it's marked ineligible, it means that maybe a piece was missing, or like in the situation for the Center for Gifted Studies, the process just hasn't been completed yet. So if you log back in during the acceptance window and you find that your student is marked academically ineligible, then you can, if you have a question about that, you could contact the coordinator and they can give you some more information. It also could be if you see academically ineligible marked on your application when you go log back in for the acceptance window, that you're already a current student. So Just note that you don't need to reapply for the program if you're currently in it. So once you're in a program, you are in that program until the highest available grade level. So if you go in and apply, if you're a ninth grader and then you apply for 10th grade, but you were already in the program, then the coordinator will mark you academically ineligible just to remove you from the wait list because you didn't have to apply. The other thing that you'll notice there on the bottom is behaviorally ineligible, and this applies only to secondary students. And this just means that students can be determined ineligible for district application programs for our magnet and fundamental programs due to behavior. So what we'll do is we will look at any student who has 10 plus referrals in the past year, so the past 2 school semesters from January to December of 2024, and or any assessor from any school year. An assessor just means a serious violation of the student code of conduct or anything that involves law enforcement. So we'll pull a report that is that alerts us for any students there that have 10 plus referrals and or assessor from any school year. Those will be reviewed, and students can be determined behaviorally ineligible that way. So that will be marked on the application once you would log back in. But if that applies to your situation, you would be notified beforehand. Next, we're going to talk about program ranking and priorities. You can apply for just one program. So if you're only interested in one program, say you just are interested in one of the arts programs at Johns Hopkins, you can select Johns Hopkins for dance and submit your application and be done with it. Or you can submit 2 or 3 or up to 5 programs on your application. So you can select 5 different school choices or 5 different program choices. So if you were interested in, let's say, any of the arts at Johns Hopkins, you could select all of those up to 5 programs on there: dance, vocal music, theater. You could put journalism on there because your student is really into the arts and really wants to go to Johns Hopkins. Or you could select one program from Johns Hopkins. You could apply to Tyrone. You could apply to Azalea. So you can apply for, again, just 1 or up to 5. But keep in mind that your ranking is from first choice to your last choice. So whatever your student's first priority is, or the one that they really would like to attend, that should be your number 1 down to number 5. If you have priorities that apply to you and your situation, they would only apply to your first choice program, which is ranked number 1, during the initial application period only. So just keep that in mind. Next, we're going to review what some of those priorities might be, but just keep in mind they only apply during the initial application period, which is now through January 17th at 5 p.m. And they only apply to your first ranked choice. That's important to remember. One of the priorities that may be applied is feeder pattern. And what that means is that students attending certain schools or programs are given priority to attend related programs at the next level, or what we consider to be program continuation. So for example, that means that fundamental students would receive priority for a seat in a fundamental school at the next level. So if you are a student at Bay Vista Fundamental and you're applying for a middle school fundamental program, you would choose that middle school fundamental program as your number 1 choice, and that feeder pattern would be applied from Bay Vista to, let's say, Thurgood Marshall. So, but again, only if it's that number 1 choice. So fundamental to fundamental would receive that priority. That's also indicated in that DAP guide. So again, that's pcsb.org/DAP. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see a little picture of the DAP guide. And in those descriptions, it will also describe if feeder pattern exists for the program to program. In the initial application with the number 1 ranking, it must be submitted and the invitation accepted during the acceptance period. So remember, that's coming up in February. But in order to receive that priority, you have to rank the program number 1, submit your application, and then also accept. So all 3 of those steps.
And just to let you all know that magnet high school programs do not have a feeder pattern. So if you were in a program in high school or middle school, there's no feeder pattern to high school, with the exception of fundamental programs. So while a high school feeder pattern doesn't exist for magnet programs, it does exist for fundamental.
The next is sibling priority. Siblings are given priority if they meet eligibility criteria and they have a sibling who will be attending the same program at the same time. If a student attends a program within a school, sibling preference does not extend to the traditional portion of the school or to any other programs at that school, with a few exceptions that are there listed below. So those exceptions would include Elisa Nelson Elementary. So if you have a student that is in the Center for Gifted Studies and one that would qualify for the Centers for Literacy Innovation, that sibling preference could be extended. Same with Midtown Academy and the three programs that are there, the Center for Literacy Innovation, Centers for Gifted Studies, and Cultural Arts. Johns Hopkins, again, has the Center for Gifted Studies and the Arts program, so you would see that priority extended for there. And then Centers for Gifted Studies, the Center for Gifted Studies, and the fundamental side of Thurgood Marshall Middle. So there are a few exceptions there, but same program, same time. So sibling priority wouldn't extend to, let's say you have a fifth grader going into sixth grade and an incoming kindergartner, right? So the fifth grader would be leaving because next year they'll be in sixth grade, and the incoming kindergartner would be in kindergarten next year, so it would not be same program, same time. So just keep that in mind when you are indicating that a sibling will be applying. Professional courtesy priority is next, and this is given to students whose parent works full-time at the application school. So full-time benefits eligible employee, their student is applying to attend the school that they're working at. Those students would receive professional courtesy priority during the initial application period of our district application program timeline. Proximity priority gets lots of questions. It's a little bit complex, so there are several slides here, and before we move on from this, I'm going to show you an example with numbers that is typically helpful. So first thing to know about proximity priority is that it's only applied to the remaining available seats for our entry grade levels after all other of those priorities have been applied. So only for kindergarten, sixth, and ninth grade applicants after feeder, sibling, and professional courtesy priorities have been applied, military as well. Proximity means the distance a student lives from the school. All proximity distances are computed using the Manhattan distance formula to the nearest hundredth of a mile. Pinellas County Property Atlas is used for the latitude and longitude values for each residential address, and this is the same that's used for the county's emergency systems and 911 database values. The address coordinates for the school and applicant address are used in the Manhattan distance formula. And then those smallest Manhattan distance formula values are given a proximity priority. Elementary and middle schools offer proximity priority to 20% of remaining seats after other priorities are given, with the exceptions of Eastlake Middle School, Mangrove Bay Middle School, Midtown Academy, and Tarpon Springs Fundamental, which offer a 50% proximity priority. And then our high school programs offer proximity priority to 25% of remaining seats after the other priorities are given. Here's an example. So let's say that there were 100 available seats at a middle school that has 20% proximity priority. 25 of those went to feeder pattern priorities, 7 went to sibling priorities, 3 went to staff, full-time employees at that school whose students were applying to attend, and then staff priorities at the bottom there. And let's say that there were 62 remaining seats. 20% of the 62 remaining seats would be 12 seats that would go to the smallest Manhattan distance formula values. And 50 seats would go to randomly selected names on the bottom. So that's a visual that might be helpful to understand how that works and how the proximity priority is applied after all of the rest of the priorities. Next, we're going to walk you through the actual application with a virtual application walkthrough. So we're going to log in there to show you exactly what you'll see tomorrow when you log in to complete your application for your student.
Okay. So we're first going to start off with the website I mentioned a little bit earlier on how to figure out what your zone school is. If you go to pcsb.org/zone, you'll get a screen that looks like what I have up right now. You're going to hit Find My Zone. And if it comes up, maybe we'll come back to that one. So we'll go where you go to apply. So if you have not yet set up an account for Focus Parent Portal, you're going to want to do that. So if you're brand new to Pinellas County School, you've never made a reservation, you've never had a child in one of our schools, you're going to come to focus.pcsb.org and you're going to click Create a Focus Parent Portal account. And all you're going to need is an email. You'll enter a couple information and then it'll send you a link for a confirmation link in your email. If it's been a while since you've been on your parent portal site, because sometimes people find it easier to go on as a student, but the parent portal gives a lot of different options and things that you can do. But if you wanted to, or you forgot your account or your password, there's a nice little orange thing that says Forgot Password Reset here. And all you'll need to do is enter in your email address. It'll send a reset link and you can link it to or set a password to something that you'll remember. If you do remember your parent account, it's either an email address or for those of you who have been around for a little while, it might be a PDOT. You're going to go ahead and sign in. Now, I'm doing this as a screen where I don't have any students. So if I was a parent portal account and I had children and they're already linked to me, on this screen is going to look a little bit different. I'm going to have their pictures are going to pop up, their school's going to pop up, there's going to be spots where I can check out their grades, I can fill out forms and that kind of thing. So the screen you're seeing now is if it was brand new and no students are linked to you. Whether you have students linked or brand new, you're going to look over to the left side menu and you're going to see a link that says Student Reservation System. And this is where all of your magnet and fundamental applications will occur, as well as if you're going to apply for a special assignment request in February, or maybe you're enrolling in our district for the first time. But that happens through the Student Reservation System link. You're going to click that link. Okay. So you have two choices on this screen. One is if you are brand new, and one is if your child currently attends a Pinellas County public or charter school. We're going to enter this as brand new just because I don't want to share or violate any FERPA things and have you share somebody else's information or child's information out there. So I'm going to apply as a brand new student. If your child attends now or has attended already, so maybe they were screened or maybe they went to kindergarten and you're now coming back for high school, you're going to click the bottom one that says my child currently attends. So they could have attended before, they could be currently attending, but their information will show up there. I'm going to click the top one because we're doing it as a new student, so I don't share any information. You're going to get a list of options. And you're going to look for the district application program, which is our magnet fundamental programs. You're going to click make an application for the next school year. And you're going to see where it says 2025, 2026. If it's any other year, you don't want to go there because this is the year you're applying for, and it would do a late application, not an application for next year. So you would go ahead and click continue. This is also the same screen right here that'll pop up if you are a current student. If you are a current student, I just want to give a heads up. Sometimes when you enter the name and then date of birth, you sometimes will get an error message or it won't be able to find your child. So sometimes I find it easier to put in the student ID. So at the bottom here, it's asking for your local student ID, which is a 10-digit number. And if you started out in Pinellas County Schools, it usually starts with a 52. If you came to us from another county, you might have a 29, or you may have something else as the starting digits. But you can either enter your student ID for Pinellas County here, or the name and date of birth. So for the sake of tonight, we're just going to put down a name. We're going to choose a birth date. And it's going to pop up. So if you had a child in our system already, their name will pop up above this. So you'll have an option, and you want to check that. If it's your student, you would check that name. So even if you did put that you were a new student and you had a child already, this screen here, it should pop up where that option, if they're in our system already, will come up as an option, or new student. The screen here is asking for some additional information about your student. So if there's a middle name on the birth certificate, if there's a suffix as junior, the second, the third, with that, it's going to ask the gender. And it's also going to ask for what grade level are you applying for. It'll ask for Social Security, but it's voluntary. It's not option. It's not mandatory with that. The state requires us to collect some ethnicity and race data. So this next question has to do with information from the state. You are just going to check off whatever pieces best coincide or how you would describe your child. And this screen here is where we typically, if you are a current student, will get a lot of error messages. The address has to match what is in focus. So let's say you moved and you put an address reservation in, but you never brought that proof, the two forms or proof of evidence of address change to the school. Your old address is going to be what's in the system. It will not let you apply unless your address matches what's in focus. If this is a brand new student, so you're applying for kindergarten and they didn't go to VPK or pre-K, you would just enter your address here. But this is one of the most common errors or screens where error messages will pop up and it'll say that your address didn't match. And that is simply as calling your, either going in online and changing your address, or calling student assignment, or emailing student assignment. And then we could put in the address change, and then you would just need to bring two forms of address verification to that school, and then you'll be able to get past this screen. For the street name, you don't have to put the whole street name. You could just put a couple pieces. And I am using the admin building's address right now. If you live in an apartment or a condo or a lot, this next screen that you see here, you will put in that information. And this is true for both current students and new students. Current, it's checking and verifying that the addresses match. New, they're capturing it for the first time. On this one here, you're just going to put your information, parent or guardian information. You're going to put an email address, and then you're going to put a phone number. And a lot of times people don't like to put that information on this, but this is what goes into the application for the coordinators to reach out to you. So let's say you don't get an offer right away and you go on a wait list. If you're not entering a phone number or an email address, the school's going to have no way to contact you. So you really do need to enter one of the addresses. There's information here if you choose to put the second parent down, you can. You don't need to, but it's optional. Then this is where, with all the different priorities that Mandy talked about, the feeder pattern, the staff priority, the military priority, this is where those priorities get claimed. So there's still a process that the schools will do to verify those claims. But for the sibling priority, if you are claiming, you're going to put yes, and you're going to have to put what program that sibling is at. And then it's going to ask you for that sibling's student ID number. So that 52 number, you can find it on your child's report card. You can find it in the Focus portal. But it's going to need that 10-digit ID to match up for the system to recognize or check that there indeed is someone at the school with that number. If you do not put the number in, it's not going to let you make that claim. Same thing if they're already here. This is asking for feeder pattern. So this is where you would put, if your child currently is in a program, you would just select which program they're currently in. And that's going to basically trigger coding for whether or not they would be eligible for the feeder pattern priority. The military status is just basically asking if you are new or coming in at this time for military. So for a family that's already been in our district for a year or a couple years, the military priority does not apply to you. But if you have recently moved or are coming into our district, at the initial point of entry to the district is when you are eligible for military priority. There's an email address there. It'll also come to you in the confirmation email on where to send those active transfer orders, so we could verify that piece. And I'm just going to put down one yes or no so you can have an idea. And then the other piece is if you are a full-time employee at your number one ranked choice school. So if you are trying to get your child to come to the school that you work at full-time. So I'm a district employee. If I wanted my child to get a full-time employee benefit at a school, I would not get it because I don't work at that school. So I would have to work at that school to be able to claim full-time employee. There is a question here about multiple siblings, and I just want to caution you because if you hit yes, it's going to ask you for some basic information, but this is not an application for them. So if you have twins or triplets or multiple births, you're going to have to do separate applications for each child. And it is a little bit confusing here. We're just trying to capture that information. So if that is the situation, and we're looking at some got invited and some didn't, it just helps us track and try to keep that information together. But you have to do separate applications for each of those children. So what's going to happen next is you're going to choose, because right now it looks a little funky because it says elementary school. But if you remember, I put in for 6th grade. So my application is going to go to middle school. Now, I may look at this and go like, why isn't Dunedin there? I really want Dunedin. What's going to pop up on this screen here is the schools that you are eligible to apply for. So if it's countywide programs or those that's the application area. So based on the address that I use, these are the programs that I'm eligible to apply for. And I really want to make sure I'm remembering what Mandy talked about earlier, and that the number one choice, if I'm claiming or asking for one of those priorities, that has to be my number one choice. We get a lot of times, a lot of parents will get very upset with us. They might be in Clearwater Fundamental, for example, and they kind of really want the medical program at Palm Harbor University, but they also want Osceola. So they'll put Palm Harbor down as number 1, Osceola as number 2, and then get upset if they don't get into the medical program and then they're not into Osceola. So that whatever priority you're claiming, that school has to be the number 1 ranked choice. So I'm just going to randomly select a couple schools. They've got a great dance teacher at Johns Hopkins. I'd probably go Clearwater because it's the closest here. If I were, and I don't know why it keeps tripping like that, going back, but you're going to choose 1 up to 5 And this is where a lot of schools I've been hearing, because we've had parent phone calls today saying that the principal or at the discovery night said to only choose their school. Choosing one school and choosing 5 schools, it's not going to impact that. The only thing I would say choosing one school does is if you only want one school, you're not wasting or taking up a seat of a potential offer. But it will not impact your chances at all if you put 1, 2, 3, or totally up to 5. That does not matter. If I put the same number, and I'm just going to do it so you can see what happens. If I put the same number down and I try to continue, it'll give me a message saying you must rank your program choices 1 through 5, 1 being the one you desire the most. So it won't let me move forward if I have 2 programs marked as the same. And we will try to get that glitch where it keeps going back to the elementary school view fixed. So as Mandy said earlier, you're going to get a list of the different program coordinators. So these are the programs that I applied for. You want to make sure that they're ranked as you want. And then if you're making any claims, they'll show up on the application piece here. You're going to hit agree. The next bit is a little bit of stipulations. So for example, if your child has an IEP and currently gets curb-to-curb transportation, as Mandy talked about in the beginning, only arterial is offered. So if you are doing an IEP, there's a line in here that'll talk about how it's only arterial transportation that is provided. So that specialized would not be an option if you choose a magnet or fundamental program unless it's the zone school. It also talks about acknowledging that only the number 1 ranked choice is what would receive priorities. You're almost there. When you get to this screen, this once again is kind of like the confirmation that you're choosing it. Do you prefer to be contacted by phone? This is where even if I would highly recommend putting in a phone number. We have had several families where, especially if they're new to the district and they're not in their system, and we could look or check to see that there's a backup number or something else entered or a different way to contact them. If contact information is not listed here, and a seat opens up and there's no way to contact you, and we've tried to look and we've tried to reach out, you may lose a seat at a school. So whether it's the phone number, whether it's an email, you definitely want to put contact information down here. And then you would hit submit. You're more than welcome to print this just so you have a hard copy record with it. One thing I do want to mention is we recommend applying not on a cell phone, only because some of these screens, the whole screen doesn't fit on a cell phone. And so unless you scroll down to the bottom, you may miss part with the submit piece. So you will get a screen here. We do have a brief survey that if you have some extra time to complete, we would love for you to do it. It's also included in the confirmation email. But it kind of asks a little bit of information on where you heard about us, if we were to open new programs, what kind of programs would you like to see? But it just gives us some data or information on if we were going to expand our options, what would you like to see? And we really do listen to a lot of that. So that is basically what to do to apply. I do want to give you a heads up. You can go back in and you can apply again. There is a certain screen that you will get to where it'll delete. So if you're going in to reapply, here, we'll just do it real quick so you can see.
Like if you wanted to change the rank of your
Right.
choices, if you're talking with your student and they're like, you know, I've really changed my mind, I'd like to switch my number 1 and 2, you can go back in, but just make sure that you're paying attention to the alerts that come up, because it will we've set it up so that it'll warn you a couple times. Like, do you really want to change your choices? Are you sure you want to change your choices? And Ellen will show you what that looks like.
So you can see here on this screen that it says that I already applied for your status. So that's another way you can come in here and make sure, and if it says applied, you know you applied already. So you will get multiple pop-ups. It'll say, we see you have an option. So you can choose at this screen to go in and view and print your school choices, which is just going to pop up that last screen where you can at least get the contact information, the coordinator's name, and that type of thing. And then the other one, let's see if it'll let us go back, change school choices. And this is where you have to be careful. And so like Mandy said, we have a pop-up. If you click continue, your previous program choices will be removed and you'll be required to re-enter the application. So you pass this screen and hit continue, it will automatically delete your application. So you'll have to go through, pick your programs again, go through and hit submit. So just beware that if you're going in to check your choices, you can easily do it with the view and print. But the minute you hit change school choices and then hit continue on that pop-up, your application number will be deleted. So you may call us and be like, I didn't get an offer, I have no idea what's going on. And when we work with the tech department, you'll have the application number, we'll take a look, and they're able to tell us that you may have gone in, your original one you applied for on January 7th, and then and they can tell us as much as on January 10th, they got to this screen and didn't go further, and so it may be deleted. So I just want to give a heads up that if you do want to change, that you go all the way through with that, and that you can do the view the school changes. So we're going to try this one more time with the school zone, just to kind of show you where you can find your zone school. Yeah, so we're gonna just know that you can enter the address with that. One of the websites that we've referred to multiple times is pcsb.org/DAP. That'll have those links as well. You can get a copy of the guide. You can look up all the different programs. You can get the different application areas here. But all the information that we've either referenced or talked about will be available on this website. So that is all that we really had to share and kind of information, resources, and walk you through on what to expect. At this time, we would like to open it up for any questions that you may have. Oh yeah, important dates. So before we let you go, we want to give you those dates for that.
All right, so we do have some parent application assistance events coming up. So if you run into trouble or you just want to, come in person instead of talking with someone over the phone, or have one of us there to sit by you and just walk you through to make sure that, give you peace of mind that you're doing it right, we have some events available. So we do have on January 9th, which is this Thursday, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at Sandy Lane Elementary. On January 9th, we also have an event, a parent application assistance event happening at Northeast High School, which is not noted up there on that slide, but it's happening from 5:30 to 7. So 2 events on January 9th. 5 to 6:30 p.m. at Sandy Lane, and 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Northeast High School. These dates are also on that website that Ellen just pulled up, so pcsb.org/DAP. These dates and locations and times are right there on the first screen that you'll see. January 10th is this Friday. We have parent application assistance available at Lakewood Elementary in the morning from 9 to 11 a.m. And then we also have an event on January 14th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at Tarpon Springs Fundamental Elementary School. January 17th is the final day of the application period. Remember, the application window closes at 5 p.m. on January 17th, and we will be available from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. in the student assignment office to assist you with anything that you need help with. So you can either call us anytime during that window, you can call us, but we will have all hands on deck available to assist if needed in the student assignment office. And we're located in Largo at the administration building. If you're facing the building, you don't need to go into the front office, into the front of the building. You can look to the left, and there's a door with a sign over top that says student assignment, and you can come right in there and ring the bell, and we will be right out to assist you then.
And you don't have to just wait till the 17th. Our hours, Monday through Fridays, typically are 8 to 4:30. So at any time during this application period, please feel free to come in and we can assist you at our office.
And just a note on that as well, we will remain at the office until every question or inquiry that we receive before 5 p.m. on January 17th is answered. So please don't stress if you leave us a voicemail. As you can imagine, we're flooded with emails and voicemails at this point in time. And Ellen and I and all of the staff in the office do our very, very best to get back to you as soon as possible. But if you have emailed us or left us a voicemail before 5 p.m. on January 17th, we will get back to you, and we will make sure that your application gets submitted. If you call us after 5 p.m. on January 17th, then we cannot guarantee that application would be submitted. But if you're having trouble, please reach out and try to log in and complete it as soon as you can, just in case you run into any technical issues or glitches. Once you're in there, it's pretty simple, but sometimes there are password issues or technical issues where you need to try a different browser or a different device, and we need some time to troubleshoot that. But if you reach out to us before 5 p.m. on January 17th, we will make sure that your issues are taken care of.
And just to kind of go off on the same thing, a lot of times parents will wait to the end and someone invariably gets sick or there's a tragedy in the family or something happens. So please don't wait to the last day or two. I'll make sure you do have time to get that application in.
So one more time, the initial application period runs from January 7th, which is tomorrow, through 5 p.m. on January 17th. The acceptance period, remember, you not only have to apply, but then you have to go in and view either your offers or your waitlist status. And if you receive an offer that you'd like to accept, you have to accept that offer between February 12th and 5 p.m. on the 21st. If you don't, then that invitation will be invalid and it will be offered to another student. So it's not just saved indefinitely for you. Once it's not accepted, it would mean that seat would go to someone else. So if you have an offer that you'd like to accept, you have to log back in February 12th through the 21st by 5 p.m.
And we will, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We will do, and I should have put it on the screen, on February 11th, we will have the same thing that we're doing right now. We will walk you through the acceptance period as well. So we'll be sending that information out. It'll be on the website. But just like this, we'll try to walk you through so you know what to expect when that time comes.
And show you what it looks like, where to click, and so forth. After that, beginning February 24th, that week is what we call Newly Invited Sibling Request and Appeals Week. So what that means is, let's say you have two students that you are applying, you submitted two applications for them and one got an offer and one didn't. So let's say you're applying to Madeira Beach Fundamental, your kindergartner gets an offer, but your second grader does not. So during that week, beginning February 21st, you would reach out to the coordinator listed with that contact information on your confirmation screen, and you would say, I have accepted an offer for my kindergarten student, and I would like to claim newly invited sibling priority for my second grader. Now, that doesn't guarantee your second grader's seat, but what it will do, it will move them up in position on the wait list. So if seats were to become available, you would be more likely to receive an offer. So, things happen over the summertime, people change their mind, they move away, they decide they'd like to, explore another option, and the coordinators at those schools need to be able to reach you. So that they could potentially offer you a seat once one were to become available. Appeals, what that means is, remember we talked briefly about academic ineligibility and behavioral ineligibility. So if your student were found to be academically ineligible for whatever reason, at that point you could appeal to the coordinator at the school, explaining, reasoning behind that appeal and why you feel your student should still be accepted. Same goes for if they were found behaviorally ineligible. So if that were to be the case, you would have already been aware of that. You will have received an email from me, and we can go into more detail with that process if it applies to you. The late application period opens on April 2nd and runs through the end of the calendar year. So April 2nd, that late application period will open. So if you, hopefully not, but if you somehow miss the initial application period, or maybe you only applied for 2 programs and you didn't get invitations to either one, then you wanted to add a couple of choices to your application, you could do that during the late application period as well. All right, now for Q&A. We are ready.
All right, here we go. How many programs can we apply for?
Up to 5. So you could select just one. If you have, just one strong preference, you could pick 2, you could pick 3, but no more than 5. So 1 through 5.
If my child is currently enrolled in a program, do I need to reapply for next year?
No. Once you're in a program, then you are in that program through the highest grade level available.
And I am going to jump in real quick there too, because they could be in a program and maybe they want to try something out. You will not lose the seat in the current program, so you can still apply for a different program during this initial application period, not so much in the late application period, but during the initial you can apply for another program without penalty. It would only be if you were offered and you accept the other program, would you then forfeit your seat for the following year. So you can still apply for different programs, but once you're in. There's no need to reapply.
If I apply for DAP but later get into my choice school, can I switch to choice?
So I'm assuming that we're referring to a special assignment request. So if I apply during the initial application period for DAP, I receive an offer, I accept it, that's not going to interfere with my ability to submit an application for a special assignment request. Just keep in mind, whatever you accept last is what sticks, or which reservation overrides the other. So just make sure that if you're accepting a special assignment request, that that's really what you want, because that's going to cancel out the DAP seat. So think about something like if you're applying for the Center for Wellness and Medical Professions at Palm Harbor University High School. You apply, you receive an invitation, you accept that invitation, but you're also applying for the traditional side of that school. If you accept that SAR, then you're no longer a part of the medical program there at Palm Harbor. So whatever you accept last overrides all else.
If I live in Largo, would I still be able to apply to attend Clearwater Fundamental?
Yes, the fundamental programs are countywide application areas.
What is the probability of being accepted if I am coming from another state for first grade and kindergarten?
It really depends on what you're applying for. It's hard to determine at this point in time because we don't know how many applicants there will be for each of the programs. But do keep in mind, and we reviewed this at our first Facebook Live session. You can go back and watch some of that if you'd like to. There are only a certain amount of seats available. So for some of the more popular programs that have a ton of applicants, some have hundreds of applicants where there are still students on wait list, or there were still students on wait list that selected it as their number one choice. The class sizes don't increase. So let's say we have 100 seats available in kindergarten. That doesn't change going from K to 1 to 2 to 3. That stays the same. So really, unless a student leaves, or the family moves away, or they make another choice, there aren't going to be available seats in some of those grade levels. There's a very small increase due to class size increases in fourth grade, but it's minimal and not a whole lot. So it just depends.
The most seats that are going to be available are those entry grade levels, so kindergarten, sixth grade, and ninth grade. And we'll get stories, or you may hear stories of how I've applied for 5 different years. I've never gotten in. It's fixed. But the thing is, once, as you said, there's no need to reapply, because once you're in, you're in. So if you're in kindergarten, you automatically go up to first grade. So unless they lose seats, or people are moving out or leaving, or decide that they want a different program, it's filled. The sibling priority would assist. So if one got in like the kindergarten, the newly invited sibling priority would help put them in a better position for first grade. But it really all depends on at the time. And it may not be right away, but it might be something where a seat becomes available over the summer. But for example, Curtis Fundamental still has 119 people on their wait list for kindergarten. So the more popular programs, the more applications there are, makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes to get in.
If we don't apply for the CEL or RISE program for 9th grade, can you apply later on and if you change your mind?
So those 2 programs are actually the only ones in the county where they only do an entry grade level of 9th grade. If you wanted to go in later, it really would be reaching out to the coordinators of that program, and they'd have to look at transcripts and classes to see if they're applicable to go in to finish the scope and sequence, which ties into why most of the magnet programs only have 9th and 10th grade entries that you can apply for. Is most of those programs have a scope and sequence that's tied to getting industry certifications or course completion or program completion, where if you're not entering in those first 2 years, it's very hard to successfully complete the program. But the Seminole, CEL, and RISE, it's a 9th grade only. But if you do have questions, you can always reach out to them, and then it will all depend on what classes you have, and if they could successfully combine in for program completion.
Does Sanderland Middle IB program feed into St. Pete High IB?
No, the only middle to high school feeder pattern that exists is fundamental to fundamental. There's not an IB to IB, middle to high school priority.
If my child is accepted into a program, but during the first year they decide it's not the program for them, can they still stay at the program?
So yes, so you can complete the year. Now, if they decide it's not for them and they start acting up, they're violating a lot of the different policies where they might get dismissed. It's a little bit different, but you can complete the year. If you decide mid-year that you would like to go to the zone school, you're more than welcome mid-year to go back to the zone school. Typically, we will see near the end of semester 1, some people withdraw to then be able to do a late application for a different program for semester 2 with some of the high school programs, but it's a handful of students. By no means, if you choose a fundamental or magnet program and you lock it in, that you're locked in there. There's always different educational options with Pinellas County Schools.
Do I need to fill out an application if I want my daughter to go to Mildred Helms Elementary School, even though that is our zone school?
You don't have to. You could. So IB in elementary school is really geared for all students. So all students at Mildred Helms IB World School experience the IB program, whether they're zoned there or not. So you could definitely just complete an application, but you wouldn't have to necessarily. Your child will still receive the IB program, being a zoned student at Mildred Helms IB World School.
And that's true with any of the program within a school parts. So Safety Harbor Middle, McMullen Booth, Largo Middle, you would, in all of those programs, if you're zoned there, you're still going to receive the IB programming. It's part of the accreditation standards they have to meet.
Can you please clarify the IB criteria for FSA and FAST scoring requirements?
So if you go on to any of the school's websites, they'll have it listed, but pretty much it's the equivalent of like a level 4 or 5. If you have less than that, you can still appeal. So when Mandy talked about the appeals week, sometimes we may have them not meet the math, but everything else, they've met eligibility criteria is there. We've had families appeal the process and then been allowed to get in there. So on all three of the IB websites, as well as Advanced Academics website, there are the list of criteria, but it's looking at A's and B's. It's looking to make sure Algebra 1 has been passed, and the EOC passed, as well as math and reading, just to make sure it's a very rigorous program. So they want to make sure that you're coming in and can successfully complete the different math and classes.
If my child, hold on, sorry, something popped up on my screen, of course. If my child does not get accepted into any of the district kindergarten programs we put on our list, can a spot open up after the start of school?
Yeah, a lot changes over the summertime. People might change their mind. They might move away. So that's why when Ellen showed that screen about your contact information, it's really important. So if you're incoming new to the district, whatever information you put there, phone number or your email address, is how people can contact you from the wait list. So if a seat were to open up because someone decided that they were no longer going to attend and you were number one on the wait list, you'd want to make sure that your contact information was there so that they can reach you and offer you that seat.
What do I do if the program I'm looking for is not showing up?
That would mean that you are not in the application area. So it is not one of your options. So only those programs that are in your application area that you're eligible to apply for will pop up on that.
For twins waiting the same school, can they apply for different magnet programs at the one school?
So yes. The sibling priority or newly invited sibling priority, there was the list of the screen that Mandy shared. So if it's high school, no, it has to be the same program. There are a few elementary and a few middle school, like John Hopkins, Midtown, Thorogood, Marshall.
Mostly the ones that have the Centers for Gifted Studies.
For those,
Elisa Nelson.
So those ones will do a sibling across programs, but the majority has to be in the same program.
Where do we go to update our address so it matches?
Great question. So you can go onto the student reservation system. So the same way where we got in, where you saw the link for the district application programs, magnet or fundamental at the top, if you look down, it'll talk about changing address. If you are in a magnet school, you will need to contact student assignment, and you can either email us at dap@pcsb.org or studentassignment@pcsb.org, or call our office number at 727-588-6210, and we can enter it for you. It's a little bit different than a traditional or zone school because application areas might change with new addresses. If you enter it yourself or we do it for you, it'll set kind of what we call a pending address verification, and you would just need to bring 2 forms of address verification to your current school for the address to get changed. But student assignment can help you do that, or you can go on to the student reservation system and just look for residential address change and do it yourself.
Does the coordinator information come on the confirmation email, or where can I find that information?
Yes, it will come. It'll come on that last screen, right where there was the submit button on the bottom. You can also print that screen, or if you go and log back in, remember when Ellen was showing you how you could change your choices or view your choices, you can log back into your application and just select print or view your choices, and the coordinator information will be there.
So I do want to, that last screen with the submit, if you do not enter your email address there, you will not get a confirmation email. So make sure that your email address is on that last screen if you want that confirmation email.
Can you guys go back and talk about having the IQ score and psychological report before January 24th, does that statement apply if you are applying for kindergarten at Midtown or just later?
So gifted programming at Midtown does not start to first grade. So the only kindergarten program at Midtown offers is through the cultural arts. So you could only apply for the cultural arts program in kindergarten at Midtown. And then typically what will happen, which is a little bit different from some of the traditional or zone schools, at Midtown they will do a universal screening. So all the kindergarten students get screened for gifted services. And then that's where either the IEP or the IQ test or the gifted eligibility will be determined. And then that then becomes part of, we'll see almost 50% sometimes of the kindergarten students at Midtown then go over to the apply for and get into the gifted program. So for the example with the first grade family or the kindergarten first grade, Midtown's typically one of the programs where we do see some seats become available in first grade.
For those that are applying for kindergarten, will there be another Ready, Set Kindergarten for those schools, or do we attend the event at our zone school?
So some of the information from the Ready Set Kindergarten is going to be standard across the district because there's a lot of commonalities. The curriculum's the same, the district policies are the same, the code of conduct's the same. Typically, they're not going to do the 100% Magna program. So your Jamersons, your Sanderlin, Bay Point, they don't have a separate Ready Set Kindergarten because they had a discovery night. So if you want to see some of that information, you could go to the zone school. But typically most Magna programs will do some sort of new family orientation during the spring. It just won't be the same kind of setup as a Ready Set Kindergarten. So if you do want those pieces, I would recommend going to the zone school just because the 100% magnets are not going to offer that. If it's a school like Mildred Helms, the example was the other day, if you're zoned, or if you are there for the Magna program, you could definitely attend that because you're going to hear the same information. You're going to meet those teachers with that.
If your student is currently enrolled at a DAP school and you apply for another DAP school, will they lose their seat by applying elsewhere?
Not during the initial application period. So you can apply again without jeopardizing your current seat. What will happen is at the end of the year, you'll receive communication from your current school's magnet coordinator, and they'll ask if you'd like to keep your seat or come off of the wait list. So if you weren't, let's say you apply during the initial application period and you don't get an offer to the other program that you're interested in. You could get an offer, and then you would have to make a decision. Then remember, I said the whatever you choose last overrides the other. So if you get if you apply and get an invitation during the initial application period now, and you accept it, then you would be good to go. Let's just say then you were waitlisted for the program that you applied for this year. At the end of the school year, you'd have to make a decision on if you'd like to remain in your current program or on the other program's wait list. That's on down the line.
Can students apply for a vocational or trade program like St. Pete Construction Program for 10th grade?
Yes.
That was easy. How can we change the middle school if we don't get a spot for the requested program?
So you do have educational opportunity with something called a special assignment request. And that will allow you to choose a school that's not a DAP program, but also not your zone school. So grades 1 through 12, it'll open up on February 4th. You can apply for a special assignment request. And we'll see a lot of families who really want the SAR who apply for magnet just to kind of have a backup or other options. But as Mandy has said several times, it's whatever is you choose last will stick. So if you say yes to a magnet program and then you get an SAR offer and you choose the SAR, you're giving up that magnet seat. If you don't get into that magnet program and you get an offer for an SAR, you can say yes to the SAR and you'll still get to stay on the wait list for the magnet. So that offer may come later. When Mandy was talking about like when offers can happen, it may come later, it may come after the school year starts, but it would still give you the opportunity for that different magnet or fundamental program.
All right, last question of the night. Do we need to go to a school in the county and obtain a public ID or password?
No, we do the Focus Parent Portal. So if you do not have one, all you will need to do is go to focus.pcsb.org and click Create Account. It's a green square on the left. You'll need an email address. You'll need your name. And then it's going to ask you to select a password, and then you'll confirm it through your email. And that's all you'll need to do to set up a parent account. When it gets later and you want to link you to a student where you can access their grades, you can do forms for them and that kind of thing, that's when you would need to show proof at the school that that student is either your child, your guardian, that type of thing. But to apply, you just need to do this. I do want to mention, because we haven't really talked about it that much, is if you do not live in Pinellas County, you're not going to be able to do it this way. Even if your child attends a Pinellas County school and you want to apply for a DAP or an SAR, you're not able to. The system currently doesn't have the capacity or functionability to be able to take an out-of-county address. So there is a form called a Special Attendance Permit. It's Form 4-302, and it can be found several places on the website. You can apply if you're out of county using that. Due to state mandates, we cannot displace in-county residents for out-of-county students. So your timeline will be a little bit different. We tend to not do the SAPs until later in the spring to ensure that all Pinellas County residents do get first options and first choice to those programs. So it's still possible to apply. It's just a different part. You're not going to be applying online. You're going to be filling out that form and sending it into student assignment. So since that was the last question, I just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. If we did not answer your questions or you still have more questions, please just reach out to us. We can be reached at 727-588-6210, or you can email us at dap.pcsb.org or student assignment, no space in between, at pcsb.org. We're very excited, and we wish you luck in your applying for one of our 87 different programs. Thanks so much for joining us.
Have a great night.